Good afternoon and welcome to the final concurrent session of the day, introducing Rguroo, a web-based statistical software designed by teaching. Our presenter today is Maury Jamshidian of California State University, Fullerton. Maury Jamshidian is a CNSM Distinguished Professor in the Mathematics Department at California State University, Fullerton, and serves as the Graduate Advisor for the Master of Science in Statistics at CSUF. He received his PhD from UCLA's Mathematics Department. His area of research is broadly in computational statistics, with publications in major theoretical and applied journals, such as the Journal of American Statistical Association, Journal of the Royal Statistical Society, and Psychometrica. He is currently an associate editor for the Journal of Computational and Graphical Science Statistics, and in the past has served as associate editor for the American Statistician, Journal of Statistical Software, and Journal for Statistical Computation and Simulation. His current activities include research in statistics education and statistical software development for teaching statistics. If you have any questions for the presenter during the session, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom room screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. On that note, I will hand it over to our presenter.
All right, well, thank you, Victoria, and thanks everyone for participating today. So let me begin by sharing my screen here. All right, so I'm assuming that you can see my PowerPoint. Let me maximize this. All right, so as Victoria mentioned, I'm going to be introducing Rguroo, which is a web-based statistical software that is specifically designed for teaching. And my talk is going to have three parts. I'm going to talk about the Rguroo story to give it some context as to how Rguroo came about. Then I'm going to talk about GAISE technology selection guidelines and how it relates to Rguroo. And then I'll give you a quick tour of Rguroo to give you some idea about how, to give you a feel about Rguroo. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some Rguroo resources that are available, and that should be the end of my talk. So let me begin now with the Rguroo story here. So I have been teaching statistics for over 25 years, and in terms of technology use, in the early 1990s, I used calculators. There was nothing else really to use. Within the 1990s, I used Minitab, and of course, for upper division and graduate courses, I used SAS. Then recently, now for the upper division courses, I use R, etc. But it turned out that in about 2010, I became the coordinator for our introductory stats courses at Cal State Fullerton. And at that time, our faculty were not using any kind of specific software. And also we didn't have a uniform textbook anyways, but what happened was I thought, we need to use software when we are teaching statistics. So my thought was, well, R is a great software for statistics, and maybe I can start using R in our introductory courses. And as some of you guys may know, R is a language where you have to type things in. For example, if you want to get a histogram, you have to type hist, open parentheses, give it the X variable, etc. And I knew that that was probably going to be difficult for students. So a colleague of mine and I wrote a manuscript that showed basics of how to use R, for example, to do a histogram or a bar chart or do a linear regression and so on. And in fact, the manuscript was published by Cengage. We started using that manuscript, but it turned out that this exercise was not successful because introductory students have a very difficult time actually, with writing code. For example, we were spending a lot of time on, correcting syntax. Oh, you forgot the comma, you forgot this should be lowercase, uppercase, etc. It turned out that by chance, I have a good friend who is a great software engineer, and by chance he just asked me if there was a project that we could do together. And I said, well, there's this R language that is quite powerful for statistics, but it is difficult for students to use. And should we be able to put actually some sort of graphical user face on top of it, then that would be great. And so essentially we started this project about 2014. And so this was not an easy task. We had to really think about how we're going to design this. And so with that, I think the idea was, well, what are the goals, right? So fortunately, there's a GAISE 2016 that came that actually came out by, it's a documentation. Some of you guys might be familiar with it. It's guidelines for assessment and introduction and instructions in a statistics education. Fortunately, I had access to an initial draft of this document. And the main ideas there for teaching introductory stats is teach statistical thinking, focus on conceptual understanding, and use technology to explore concepts and analyze data. So, and then of course, this is a quote from GAISE. It says, technology has changed the practice of statistics and hence should change what and how we teach. So the idea was that we need to provide a tool where the focus is on conceptual understanding and statistical thinking, and students don't have to struggle with the computational part, and they can focus on concepts. Now, fortunately, GAISE also had some technology selection guidelines. Okay, and let me just go through them, and I will, when I go to Rguroo to show you a presentation of Rguroo, I sort of point these out as well. But list-wise, ability to import data in multiple formats. For example, in Rguroo, you can import data from Excel, from CSV, from text, from SAS data, SPSS data, etc. Support for merging data from multiple sources and data management. And there are a whole bunch of functions that you can use in order to manipulate and clean data, merge data, append data, etc. within Rguroo. Interactive capabilities and dynamic linking between data, graphics, and numerical analysis. And certainly we have a lot of tools to do that. And maybe if I get a chance, if there is enough time at the end, I might be able to show a little bit or one example of this for you. Functional consistency across platforms and tablet support. So let me just say something about this. Rguroo is a web application, and essentially all you need to run it is a browser, and it runs on tablets as well. Internet and browser is all you need. In fact, there is no add-ons or anything like that that you need. All you need is an account, and you log in and you use it. So in that sense, it is platform independent. And then, of course, to all of these, I should say that ease of use for particular audiences, including those with visual or hearing impairment, is another thing. So Rguroo is completely accessible, and I know that this is a requirement for software these days. And let me also, I think I jumped a few things. So support for specific goals. And let me just say something about that, and that is, the way Rguroo is designed, it is like book chapters. And so exactly, we teach our courses, and I will talk about that again when I show you. It is designed and organized that way. I already talked about this, support for reproducible analysis and integration with word processing and presentation software. And so with this, everything that you do in Rguroo is savable. You can save it and share it with others. and you can always save and come back to it. Again, I'll show this feature as well when I give you a demo. I already talked about these two features. I also had a wish list. I would have liked to have access to dataset repositories, which I will show you, and I would have liked to have to create groups, for example, for my classes. I have, let's say, one section of a course. I'd like to have everybody join as a group in one section, and then share with them a certain set of data repositories, and I will talk about that. So this general idea of saving, sharing, and reproducing was something that was big in my mind. And finally, visually appealing outputs was another thing that was important, because if students are looking at something that looks nice, I think that is more attractive to them. So with that introduction, I'd like to go and talk about various aspects of Rguroo and give you a little tour here. All right, so let me just go ahead and change my screen here. All right, so this is the website for Rguroo. So rguroo.com. The name Rguroo comes from the fact that the computing engine in Rguroo is actually R. So everything that is computed or graphed or everything is done in R. Now, in terms of resources, there are labs and related material here, in particular for Hawkes textbooks. There are instructions. In fact, if you go to Hawkes Learning, there is so this is for the beginning of statistics, for example, second edition. There are technology instructions, and you can see that there's Rguroo here. And in this list, we have, pretty much everything that you can see is checked here. And what is nice here is you just click on this and, you get instruction, for example, for a binomial probability, right, to compute binomial probabilities. So there are quick instructions here. Oops, sorry, let me just go back to my Rguroo here. Other resources, there are video tutorials, both on the website as well as within the application. I'll show you those. There's a quick user's guide here, which, by the way, we are updating again. And so in this quick user's guide, what you can do is you can go ahead and, select essentially, here, for example, I want to do a box plot. Let's say I just go to box plot, and it gives you a quick way as to how you can draw box plots. Of course, these are basic and quick stuff, right? All right. Then let me go back here, and there is, sorry. Yeah, there's a dashboard quick guide. I'll talk about dashboard. There's a full user's guide that talks about technical stuff. And of course, faculty can request training for free, and it could be one-on-one or in groups. And I have given several webinars that the links are on the website. The support is very good for them. Every account gets support automatically, but I guess for an additional fee that they charge, you could get premium support, which assures that you would get an answer to your question very rapidly. All right, so with that, let me, and then maybe I should talk about this. Faculty, whether you are adopting Rguroo or not for your course, you can go ahead and register. All you do is go to rguroo.com, click register, and you click faculty, and you should be able to register and get an account for free. So let me just go ahead and sign in here. And again, you don't need any add-ons or anything like that. All you need is a username and password, and I have my username and password already here. So I'm going to just go ahead and log in. So let me begin talking about the organization first. This software is organized like the way we actually teach. We talk about data, then we talk about, plots, and when we talk about summary statistics, of course, you have summary statistics in data as well. Then you have analytics, which is essentially your inference. And notice that, for example, I have proportion inference, which teaches one population, two population, mean inference, 1 and 2 population. Then you have, linear regression. You have simple regression versus multiple regression, and so on. So the organization is there. And then, of course, there's probability simulations. If you're using simulation, there's a good, very powerful suite of simulation tools here, especially that the backend is R, and you can do a lot of nice simulations here. There's a probability calculator, which maybe I'll show you, which all of us use in our courses. And then there are some applets that you may or may not be familiar with. RWStats has very, very nice applets for demoing things. There is Rossmann and Chance applets again. And then, of course, we have, your scientific calculator. As you're teaching, you might need to just use a calculator. So you don't have to go outside of your demo. Everything is happening within a browser. And notice that a tab opened here, and now I have access to a scientific calculator. So that is that. The quick user's guide is what I actually already talked to you about. And then there is the quick access tool. Let me just talk about dashboard a little bit later. So let me just start with data here. So in terms of data, first of all, you can import data, right? And if I say import data set and look at the file types here. So you have, like, you can import CSV, you can import text, you could import Excel, and so on. And let's say if I just say choose file here, and here I have a data set called used car data that I may get a chance to use today. If I just say open, that's all you need. What you see down here is you can add a comment like this is for my demo or something. So you remember where this came from. You don't have to do this. And then this is for example, suppose that you have an Excel file where the first 10 line explains the data, but the data starts from, let's say, row 10, and you could do these kind of things. So there's a lot of details, but in terms of importing data, that's all you need. What I'd like you to pay attention to also is that when I open a menu here, first of all, there are question marks as to, it says what each of these, these things are for, right? Each of these selections, what they are for. And not only that, you also get a tutorial video here. And for example, you could copy the link and put it on your website or something if you want your students to watch a certain video here, right, about something. So now with that, if I just go ahead and upload the data, you can see that Rguroo automatically divides the data into numerical and categorical variables, right? So in this particular data set, I have year, mileage, and price. There were 49 data points that I uploaded, and it gives you the summary statistic, like the 5-number summary and the mean and standard deviation, etc. And then for the categorical variables, it tells you, there's model, it just tells you what the levels are, etc. And of course, you can just double click on the used car data and you can see the data. The brand is Honda and the model is Civic and the years. And so this data set actually was collected by my students last semester, actually, about price of cars. And it's an interesting data set. If I get a chance, I will show you some stuff on it. Now, another thing about data that is important, of course, we have different data functions that you can apply: sort, subset, transform, etc., which I don't have time to go over, or getting summary statistics. But one thing that is really interesting and important about Rguroo is that it has dataset repositories. There are over 3,000 data sets here. And for example, all of R and R packages data sets are available. So what is a dataset repository? Well, so for example, I just clicked on R data sets and you see all of them. The first one says air passenger data, monthly airline passenger from 1949 to 1960. It has 144 rows, 2 columns. And you get the information about it. You need more information, you just click the information and you get more information about this data set. Now, what is nice here is you just say import and that's it. And now you got your air passenger data, and you can use it everywhere within the software. By the way, every data set that is uploaded to your account is going to remain there. You log out, you log back in, it's going to be there because it is saved in the cloud, right? Now, talking about public data set repositories. So if you are using, for example, Hawk's textbooks, for example, for Hawk's discovery and statistics, you have all of their data sets that are in the book available. And again, by just one click, it just, you can just go ahead and import the data into your account. And, I just imported the 2011 home sale prices that is used in your book, in that book, or beginning statistics. So this is the advantage of data set repositories. So students have data available to them automatically. They don't have to go outside to get the data. Now, not only that, you can create your own data set repositories. So my own data set repositories here, for example, I have different data set repositories. And so let's say for Math 338 is one course that I have taught, and these are the data sets that I have shared with them. So on that note, let me tell you how this works. There is a dashboard that faculty have access to where they can form groups, okay? And so just to give you an example, I was teaching a course called Math 338 during summer, and I formed a group. If you can just say add a group in your account and you just give it a name, and then notice that there is a join code that you just give it. And of course, our system checks to make sure that the join code is not used by anybody else. So you can make up your own. So for example, the join code for this course was summer 2021. So what is in here? Well, I'm not going to show you, but there are the names just for because of privacy issues, but it says there are 26 records. There were 26 students here in this class. And then I have my data set repositories. I have various data set repositories, but there's a repository that I had made for Math 338, and I shared with them. So every student now would have access to these data sets that I share with them. Now, another thing is that you can also form groups here, right? And if you just say group, you give it a group. So I already talked about that, and you get a join code, and I will tell you how you can actually use the join code. Let me just say the repositories, you can have repositories. If you look at my repository for Math 338 here, I have these data sets. In fact, there is more. It shows 10 at a time. You can add a data set to this repository from your own computer by browsing, give it a name, give it a title. You can even document it, right? Remember that information that I clicked on. This documentation that you provide here shows that information, right? You could also, add data sets from your Rguroo account, right? So for example, remember that I had air passenger. I could just say select this, and I say just import it, and then you can add data sets to your data set repository. And then once you form a data set repository, again, when you go to your groups, your data set repository is going to be available, right, here. And then you either share it or unshare it with the group, right? Okay, so that is the dashboard, which is quite useful, and I have found it to be very useful. So let me just go ahead and log out of the dashboard here. And now going back to here. All right. And now, by the way, when you give it a join code here, students come here and they say, join my group, and say group code. If they just write the join code, whatever it was that you have given it, then they will be added to your course. By the way, you also have the option of manually entering students, either via a CSV or Excel file, or actually typing in their account ID. All right, so that is for data, which is of course very important here. Now, I want to start with probably a quick presentation of an inference type problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this problem. In fact, this was a problem that I did a while back. So let me just say what is different about a teaching software. GAISE states that, let me just maximize this. It is important to view the use of technology not just as a way to generate a statistical output, but as a way to explore conceptual ideas and enhance student learning. Well, so, if I just go ahead and do a test of hypothesis, let's say in SPSS, or let's say in Minitab, I just get an output that I get p-values and so on. But is there anything else in the output that helped me teach the concept of p-value, for example, right? So that is what I want to show you. And I want to show you how Rguroo is different in that sense. And just to do that, I'm going to just start with, and I'm not going to compare it to SPSS today, but I'm going to just do this problem in Rguroo. Is the average price of Mercedes ES300 model year 2019 more than $42,000 now? And let me tell you where this problem came from. March of last year, I had a lease, and the amount of money that I had to pay to buy the car was $42,000. And the question was, is my car worth more than $42,000? So I had to gather data and use the data to do this test hypothesis. Is the mean price of this ES300 2019 model more than $42,000? So I want to go through such an exercise here and show you how what the output is and how we can do this, go through this type of test of hypothesis, which we do in our courses quite often. I mean, I think every introductory course has that. So I don't have the Mercedes data here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my repositories, dataset repositories here. And I have presentation data that I have here. And yes, and the Mercedes data is here. So notice that I have this, think about the case that you're teaching, you have already made a repository for yourself. So all the data is available to you. So let me show you the Mercedes data. Well, it had the price for 24 cars. And it was, these are the source, and these are all ES 300 2019 Mercedes Benzes. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a test of hypothesis here for this. And if I go to the analytics part, analysis, and I'm going to do a mean inference, and it's a one population inference, right? So I get a dialog box here. Notice again, there is like a video here in case you need to know how to use this. And if I just click this, there are two ways, test of hypothesis about a single population, or if you want to do confidence interval, there are two different videos here. All of the Rguroo functions have a basics function and details. And I'll tell you about report layout a little bit later. So first of all, if you're doing a test of hypothesis, as you know, sometimes, in our books, the mean is given, the standard deviation is given, etc. So you can just go ahead and put the mean and standard deviation and sample size and do your test of hypothesis. In this case, I want to use data. So let me just go ahead and use the Mercedes data. And it says which variable I want to use variable price. And as soon as I choose the price, then you can see that I get the sample mean, sample standard deviation, and sample size. Of course, you have the option of population standard deviation if you like to put it in. And you can either leave this or say price of Mercedes or something like that. Okay. Now let me do a test of, you could do a confidence interval here, and let me just go with a test of hypothesis. So obviously you can have a significance level here. And then I want to test mu, whether mu is bigger than 42,000 is what I wanted to test. Now notice here that there are various methods available, right? And the students get to choose. So this is a knowledge that students should have, whether they want to use a T statistic, a Z statistic, or so on. So let's go with the Z statistics right now. So if I do that, then notice that I get a data summary here, right? So this is let me just use my pointer here. This is my data summary here, right? But then I also get a nice output which says test of hypothesis. This is a Z test, right? About price of Mercedes. Notice that the alternative hypothesis, or what I'm researching, is actually spelled out. It says mean price of Mercedes is greater than 42,000. That's what I'm testing. In case you are doing your test based on rejection regions, then you get to show the critical region. I'll talk about the critical value. I'll talk about that in a minute. And now here you get your usual test, right? Your usual table. Sample mean, standard error, the observed Z statistic that we often ask our students to compute, and the 5% critical region, and now the p-value is this, and of course the result, it says test is significant at 5% level because the p-value is less than 5%, right? Now I can go, and now this is something that you usually don't see in the output of other software. Namely, here there is a specific graph that shows how the p-value is computed. So we usually ask our students to compute the, to look at the observed Z statistic, right? So they compute the observed Z statistic, and they look at, in this case, probability that, a standard normal is bigger than our observed statistic. So the green is showing the observed Z statistic, and the tail right here is showing the probability. And so that is 0.03. But I think what is more important is to look at this in terms, if you're talking about teaching these things conceptually, then we need to really describe our p-value in the context of the scale of the data, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, our sample mean was 42,981. And we are going to say, suppose that the actual mean is 42,000 as it is shown by this picture here, right? Then what are the chances of observing a sample mean of 42,981 or more? And certainly you can see that that is shown now. Conceptually, you can use this graph and this graph to show how p-values are computed. And in fact, the relationship between the standard scale and the data scale, right? Now, some of you guys may be using critical regions. Now, I want to bring to your attention this report layout. I'm going to just put it here. And by the way, you can pin each of these so they don't go away. So this is telling you what is inside each of these outputs. For example, I have this p-value graph, and if I want to bring it right on the top, and I press preview, then it comes to the top of my menu. Now, suppose that I want to teach based on, let's say, rejection regions. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, give me the critical region graph. And notice that critical region graph showed up, and maybe I'll just bring it up here. Okay. So if I do that, now it goes, and notice that the critical region graph is here. Now in this graph, it is shown, the critical region is shown actually in red. Okay. And then the observed value, which is in green now, is inside the critical region. Again, we would say if you would have observed a value, right? It says the critical value is 42,865. If you would have observed a value more than 42,865, then we would reject. And what we observed was 42,981, which falls in the critical region. So that shows that, again, how you can use these tools to teach these concepts. Maybe I'll go ahead and do one more demo of the graphs to just give you a feeling for the graphs. So let me just go ahead and create, let's say, a box plot, let's say. All right, for that, I'm going to use this used car data that I uploaded. And the used car data, let me just show it to you. So this was collected by my students, actually just last semester. It has model of the cars. It has the year, the mileage, the color of these cars, and the prices, and the source where they got the data. So TrueCar, CarMax, Honda Dealer, etc. And let's just go ahead and go through a simple exercise of drawing a box plot So let me just go ahead and select my used car data. As soon as I select it, I get my numerical variables here, my categorical variables here. By the way, Rguroo calls the categorical variables as factors, and that is in keeping with R's terminology. So I'm going to just go ahead and put price, select price, and let's look at price by source. Okay, so let me just close this here so I have more room here, and I'm going to say preview. So you get a very nice looking graph here. Notice that you have outliers here, right? Well, can you identify outliers? You can. In the details of any graph, you could have a lot of details that you could work with, but let's just go ahead and do something simple. Look at outliers. By the way, the outliers are based on this, Q1 minus 1.5 IQR and Q1 plus 1.5 IQR. If you want to change the 1.5 to any other value, you can. But right now, let me just say add labels, and I'm going to just keep this so that it doesn't go away. So my graph doesn't go away. So if I do this, well, it shows that this is case 42, 48, and 30, right? But thinking about interactive graphs, well, I can just say, well, can you tell me? So these are cheaper cars, right? Maybe we can look at their model. Okay. So when I look at their model, I get, Civic LX, EX, and EX, right? Okay. So then, sorry. Then I want to know, so it seems like, first of all, there is something curious. EX is a better car than LX. This one is cheaper than this one, right? And of course, this Civic EX is the most expensive one, right? As in the outlier situation. So let's look at their years. Okay, so I can say, show me the year for these cars. Well, again, another interesting thing happens. 2014, it costs less than 2013. And remember, even this one was, the top one was EX, which was the more expensive car. So what is happening here? So, maybe I can look at the mileage of these cars. And that explains everything. That car that has a very low mileage, very low price, it has a very high mileage. And that's what's going on with that car, right? But these two have comparable prices. One of them, if I just look at their year, right, then this was 2015, this one is 2013. That explains that, right? Now, there are a few other things you could do here. Let me just forget about outliers for a second. And for example, suppose that you want to arrange these by, the medians, right? Now, there is a level editor that is quite useful, not only here, but everywhere else, where you can do various things with the levels. So if I just say source, I see the levels, right? All right. With that, what I can do is I can say, all right, I think if I bring, I guess the Honda has the highest median. If I just bring that before CarMax, I think that will do it. So Honda dealer before CarMax. And if I do that, let me just also pin this so it doesn't go away. So now you can see that I have ordered these, right? From the highest median to the lowest, right? So true car prices seems to be lower than the rest, right? There are other things you could do here, and that is you could even combine data, right? Or let's say you didn't care about, let's first combine. So let's say I want to combine, let's say Carvana and TrueCar. So what I can do is I can just select both of these and label them the same. So let's call it Car True, for example. Okay. And if I say go, now you can see that Car True, it combined the data for these two levels. Again, this idea of combining levels is something that is useful in other places as well. Or if we could reset all of these again and go back to our original way of doing things. And now, for example, let's say I don't want to have Honda dealer there. I can drop it. And now Honda dealers are not going to be there, right? And so there's a lot of different functionalities that obviously the time doesn't allow me to show you here. All right. So to end, I guess I would just go with the following. There are many resources available for Rguroo. We have quick users guide, dataset repositories with thousands of data sets in them, and also for your textbook data. Then there's the dashboard for creating groups and private repositories. Rguroos, they provide you with one-on-one or group training, and they have an awesome technical support based on my own experience. And so that is why, these are some of the reasons why I use Rguroo. And, essentially Rguroo was obviously something that I created based on the experience that I had over the years. By the way, Rguroo is also bundled with Hawk's textbooks, and I guess you can ask for them if you want the ISBN for your bookstore as well. With that, I'm going to stop and thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Maury. That was wonderful and very informative. If anyone does have any questions or comments they'd like to share, please enter those into the Q&A box at this time. I was going to personally ask about the support, but I know that was what you ended with. I was planning on asking you that, and then you went ahead and answered it for me.
Yeah. The support is, let me just say that I know that the people that they have, so, I have created the design. Obviously, I haven't done the R programming behind it is me, but I mean the graphical user face and all of that is not something that I have done. There's a team that's working on that. And also there's a separate team, and, they are really good and knowledgeable, and they are very good in responding. And that's, that's a big plus. We all know that, our students need help, even to register for their accounts, right? And as faculty, we don't know. I mean, somebody goes to register for, for your learning management system. And as a faculty, I have no idea why it's not working for them, right? So they need to be able to contact support and so on. And so they have a great support, not only for things like registration, but also they have knowledgeable staff who answer questions about the actual inner workings of Rguroo as well. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's always nice to have that that pressure of registration help lifted off of the shoulders of instructors. I know that's something that we strive for with Hawks as well. So
that's right.
And I know that you mentioned that Rguroo can be bundled with some of our statistics resources. So I just wanted to share that if you're interested in those ISBNs or how to bundle, you can always reach out to your representative with Hawks Learning, or you can swing by the virtual booth that will still be open, and you can always ask those questions as well. And our Hawks team would be happy to provide those resources such as ISBNs or answers to your questions with that. I was wondering, and I'm not sure if anyone else was wondering, would you be able to share where that video link was in the Rguroo platform as well?
Sure, of course.
Just as a reminder where that was. I thought that was a really helpful feature.
Sure. So in fact, as far as videos are concerned, you're saying my Rguroo, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So as far as videos are concerned, first of all, I should have also mentioned here that when you click on this video icon on the top, you could search for different topics. So for example, I want to do a confidence interval, as soon as I just type in confidence, I get different things for confidence intervals, that you get these icons, and essentially you click on one and you get it right there. You can watch the video and come back and do your work, right? And of course, within each of these basic menus, also you see the video icons. Is that what you were asking, Victoria? I'm not quite sure. Yes.
That is what I was looking for.
Yeah. And also, in addition to that, if you go to resources and go to video tutorials, then there's a list of video tutorials as well here, where you can actually access videos as well.
That's fantastic. I know some of our Hawks instructors, since I work with the training and support team, they've mentioned that videos are really helpful instructional resources because then they can pause and then play as needed. So I just wanted to make sure we could remind where that was found. So thank you. We do have a question in the Q&A box. It's anonymous. Do you find that students have a better understanding of the concepts by using a software like Rguroo instead of using the traditional methods, functions, or formulas?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Based on my experience, it is not instead of, it is complementary to. Let me explain. There is value to showing a chi-squared formula, the formula for the chi-square test, to give them the idea of what this test is computing. But it is not really useful for the students to sit and compute this big, long formula. That is the part that is waste of time for the students, in my opinion. And it doesn't help, help them understand conceptually. So, I do show them formulas. And I do explain how to, what this formula is all about. But then we go to Rguroo. Rguroo is going to compute those for us. And by the way, for every one of those, you have a chi-square test, you are going to get a graph of chi-square test there, a chi-square distribution, like I showed you the p-value in the, hypothesis testing. For all of them, you get a graph, something to explain how things are. What is my observed value? How did the p-value compute it? So I would say it's not the instead, right? It is something that we need to add to our teaching, and in place of, for example, spending time computing things even by a calculator. That's even time consuming, right? And talking about calculators, also calculators are very expensive. And the students, many of our students that are taking these courses, they just don't use calculators when they go further in their studies. And so Rguroo is very reasonably priced. I think they have it like for one semester, like $11.99 or something like that. And so it's very reasonably priced, and students can go online and purchase it or get it from Hawks, or so the idea of adding this additional tool, to me, it has helped a lot. Think about the situation where you're trying to explore graphs, right? That is there, and you can do it there, right? But again, I would say that formulas are important. Teaching the methods are important. But another thing, we spend a lot. We used to spend a lot of time on teaching Z tables, T tables. Nobody in these days uses Z tables and T tables, and our group provides a very nice, even graphical presentation of, a normal distribution, how the probabilities are computed, and you can compute probabilities. All right.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Maury. It does look like we are right at our time limit today. So okay. I just want to thank you again for all the valuable information that you shared with us today, as well as those helpful examples.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you. And thank you to our attendees who have come to join us with this session as well as our conference. This does conclude the final concurrent session of the day and of our Innovative Educator Summit Conference. On behalf of everyone at Hawks Learning, thank you to our presenters and attendees for being part of IES 2022. Recordings of this year's sessions will be provided in the coming days, as well as a certificate of participation as well. I am going to go ahead and paste a brief survey of your overall experience at IES, and we would love for you to just take a moment to send us your feedback about your experience this year. And of course, if you haven't already, don't forget to swing by our virtual exhibit hall to say hello to the Hawks team. And if you view a quick 5-minute demonstration, you'll be entered to win our hourly giveaway, which includes your choice of a 6-month subscription to Audible, 1-year subscription to Disney Plus, or $100 Amazon gift card. The booth will remain open until 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll go ahead and include those links in the chat. And thank you again for joining us this year. Bye, everyone.